Hi everyone, welcome back to Rachel's studio, and in today's tutorial we're going to look at how I painted the Christmas tree in this more fine art level completed painting that I am painting for my Patreon students, which if you join my Patreon at the $8 or more tier, you will be able to access this full real-time tutorial with downloadable traceable reference photo and supply list, and that will be up sometime in the next week probably. So join me on Patreon if you would like to see how I painted this in real time, including all the information about how I painted the cat, which in this tutorial we're just going to focus on how I did the tree. So the way I started out was with masking, and you can't see it now, but I put little X's where I wanted the lights to be. But right here, I'm just splattering on a little bit of extra glitter here in the form of masking, and I have added paint to my masking so that you can see what I'm doing. And now you can see the drawing that I added to it. I drew in little Christmas tree ornaments just randomly, and I also put X's where I wanted the lights to be so that I knew to paint around those during this stage, which here I'm just basically blocking the tree in with tea consistency paint. I used a mix of ultramarine blue and aureolin, Windsor green gold, and a little bit of red to calm down the green to make it look more of a natural color red, which I almost always do when I'm painting with green. So I'm just blocking the tree in, and you can see I'm painting around garland. I'm painting around round what will become red balls, and also I'm painting kind of around the areas where I'm going to put lights, and just blocking this in with tea consistency paint, getting it really watery because I want this all to stay really wet for a really long time so that I continue to work on it, rework on it, babysit it, feed it more water. If you watched my other Christmas tree tutorial, this is a more complex, more finished form of that tree that was on the top right corner of my Christmas tree painting tutorial. If you missed it, I will link it here. And then I went in and sprayed the edges, so you see how it kind of just made the edges of the tree blossom out. So there's no hard edges, and my tree stays really dreamy, a little bit impressionistic, abstracted, because I didn't want this to be a highly realistic tree. I wanted it to be soft and dreamy and just have a lot of soft edges going on. So here I'm going in like with my push technique, just like what I used on that tree in my last tutorial. So I go in when I put those lights in, and when I have the yellow in my brush, I've added a lot of water into my brush, so there's more water on my brush than there is on the paper, and the paper is also really wet. So everything that I'm putting onto the paper is really wet. The paper is really wet because I want all this to blur and merge a lot. So the trick to that, to keeping the lighter yellow areas where I want the lights, to keep that lighter so it doesn't all merge in with the darker green around it, that's more watery. And that watery, more watery, almost puddling area of the yellow pushes out into the darker blue and green. And there I'm carefully putting in my red balls, and I left hard edges on parts of the balls so that they have those highlights, but then some parts of the balls I let touch the green of the tree so it blooms, the red blooms dreamily into the rest of the tree. And I just think that makes it look really dreamy and glowy and soft, which is what a Christmas tree looks like at night when all the lights are glowing. Everything kind of merges together in your eye. So I wanted my painting to have that same effect. So that's how I painted the tree. And see, there I am adding more water to those yellow lights. In the middle of those lights, I'm putting little drips, tiny little drips of water into those lights so they continue to bloom out into the surrounding darker tree. And as this dries, I'll continue to babysit it and feed those little yellow lighter areas in the tree that's supposed to be glowing lights with more tiny little drips of water, so it continues to push out into the dark paint around it. You can also continue to feed your painting some thick cream consistency dark. So as it's drying and it's in this really wet stage still, you can also go in and in the dark areas, go in with a drier brush. There I'm putting salt, by the way. I'm using kosher salt. It didn't end up really doing much, but I just put it in just to see if it would work. And that ultramarine blue for me, maybe because it's so heavy, it's sedimentary, it's granulating, it doesn't respond to salt as well. Phthalo blue seems to work better, but I would have to play with that more. I'm sure there's a trick to it to make it work. But anyway, I'm just going to continue to feed that tree as it dries, putting thick cream consistency paint in the darker green areas and tiny little drips of yellow watery tea to milk consistency paint into the glowing lights. And then I wasn't sure how I was going to do the background. I wanted it to really pop the tree, and I actually painted the background really dark purple once, and then I hated it, so I wiped it off. And you can see, especially up there in the upper left corner, I had put ultramarine blue and naphtha red, didn't like it, and I took it back out while it was still wet. I just took a paper towel and sopped it all up, and it did leave a soft stained paper, which is totally fine. I don't want that white anyway. That would have been too stark for this dreamy painting. And in the end, you'll see what I do. You'll see how I treat that background. I was a little perplexed at what to do, but I did work it out. So be sure to stay tuned so you can see how I did that. All right, now here I'm working with a spray bottle. As edges dry and I want them to blossom softly, I'll spray it once in a while. You'll see me do that. You saw me use my finger there a minute ago to kind of spread the paint out. I'm putting the green tree underneath the cat's leg, and I'm popping out that part of the cat's legs by making that darker down there, and I'm joining the red ball a little bit to the background by letting some of that paint float up into the shadow under his paw, so it'll kind of connect that red ball to the rest of the painting and not make it look like a cutout. Even though it does look okay to look a little bit cut out because it is definitely in the foreground. All right, and here I'm just kind of softly putting in some purples in the background and kind of playing with it to figure out what I want to do with that background. This background was a little bit difficult, and I just did that. If you guys didn't see it, be sure to watch my 10 tips background ideas video. I'll link it here if I remember. All right, I'm getting more red and just defining those little Christmas ornaments. It looks like my camera went out of focus a little bit here, so I do apologize for that. I'm using my silver black velvet size 8 round, and I used that for most of this painting. When I was doing a larger area like the background, I used my 3/4 oval silver black velvet, which covers a lot of ground. There I'm just adding a little bit of water to the edges of those red ornaments to kind of bloom them out more into the background so that they look like they're kind of glowing too. As the light catches them, they glow into the tree. And now I'm doing a little bit of negative painting around a few little branches in the tree. I'm just totally making this up and just looking for branch shapes in the tree and then painting around them. And there I am painting negatively out in the background around branches, and then charging in a little bit of blue to really define those branches that I just put in. And I was working with light tea consistency paint there just to see if I liked the effect, so that I could be non-committal. So I was just kind of playing with it, and I ended up liking it to be lighter anyway, so I just kind of left it subtle like that. But I liked the effect of painting negatively around branches and giving the tree a little bit more definition because I had kept everything so very soft. So I thought a few little hard edges of negative painting looked good, and it still looked really soft. Again, I'm using my silver black velvet size 8 brush. Earlier for larger areas, I used my silver black velvet 3/4 oval. And here, while the paper is still wet, I'm going in and adding a little bit of darker, thicker paint to define the branches that I liked. Painting with that glaze right over some parts of the darker parts of the cat to kind of help attach the cat to the background. And there I've got my scrubber. I must have had a little cauliflower in there, so I was fixing that little cauliflower. And your painting will have different needs at this point if you do this same or similar painting. But a scrubber is really great for scrubbing out little weird edges that you get from cauliflower effects that you didn't want, or to enhance the glow of an area. You can scrub out the light areas a little bit and make the glow look even whiter and lighter and more striking with more contrast. There's a lot you can do with a scrubber in a painting like this. I get my scrubbers from Royal and Langnickel. That was a size 2 stiff scrubber. They make soft scrubbers and stiff scrubbers, and I hardly ever use the soft ones. And here I'm spraying my painting again. It's completely dried. It's the next day, and I want to darken the background around the tree to really pop the tree out even more, to make it a little bit more moody. So I'm going in with a gray purple. Why am I using a gray purple? There are specific reasons why I'm using a gray purple. If you look across the color wheel from yellow being the glowing lights in the tree that I really want to accentuate, you will find purple. So how do you make a color glow even more in your painting? You look across the color wheel, pick that color as your background color or supportive color, and gray it down a little. And so the grayed down complementary color will make your yellow or whatever color you're wanting to glow look even brighter and more saturated. And so if you used pure purple and didn't tone it down at all and didn't gray it down, then it would compete with the yellow and it would kind of clash. Or maybe if you're going for a more pop, modern, contemporary look, then that would work. But if you want things to be soft and you really want that purple to just support the yellow and make the yellow glow, you gray it down so that they don't compete. There I put some salt on, but it didn't really work very well. Salt usually only works really well when you use it in the first wash, and also it doesn't seem to work as well for me with ultramarine blue, which is a heavier paint because it's granulating. Here you can see I spray and then I paint. I spray and then I paint. So I'm making sure to keep this background super, super soft because I want that background to, again, support the tree and make it look like the tree is glowing out into the dark abyss behind it. So that's why I was putting some darker colors around the edge of this painting, but also spraying it to keep everything really, really soft. Again, if you guys want to do this painting in real time so you can paint along with me and get a much more thorough explanation of both the cat and the Christmas tree, then join me over on Patreon. I don't have this tutorial up yet. I have to get a bunch of Christmas commissions done before I do another full tutorial and put it together. It takes about a week to edit my full length Patreon in-depth tutorials. They do take a lot of work, but I will have that up as soon as I possibly can, hopefully before December, so that you guys can paint it while you're in the holiday mood. But that will be getting uploaded up on my Patreon as soon as possible. So I hope you guys enjoyed this sneak peek of my next Patreon tutorial, and I would love to have you join. This will be available to my $8 and above level tier students. So I hope to see you over there. Please like this video, subscribe. I upload new videos every week, and leave me a comment. And thank you, by the way, so much for watching this to the end. That really helps my channel too. I hope you guys are going into a wonderful, safe, enjoyable holiday season. Take care, and I'll see you next week. Bye.